Right, so sticking with you, Chris, first 5 games, Thomas Frank, are you confident?
Confident in finishing higher than 17th, yes, 100%. 22 league defeats last year, simply unacceptable. It was really poor in league competition, but of course, Ange Postecoglou put all of these eggs in the basket of, going to win the Europa League trophy. Success at Tottenham, way overdue. Unbelievable night in Bilbao, fantastic. But when you look at the fixture list, Burnley at home starting. I think if anyone would have chosen their first fixture, they would have probably chosen Burnley at home. No disrespect to them, but when you look at our fixtures, the first 11 games, we're only playing one top 5 side, but we do have 4 Champions League games in that run as well. So, Daniel Levy and the board have come out and said that they want to be fighting on all fronts. It's a big transfer window, in my opinion, here. We've gone round in circles a lot in recent times. We have just appointed our 18th manager in 24 years. We talk about, the bit of a mess at Manchester United. Look how many managers that we have gone through in recent times. So I feel like Thomas Frank will bring that calmness to Spurs. I feel like he is a very progressive manager. He gets the best out of players. It's going to be an interesting time, but we need to do a lot in the transfer window. But in terms of the fixture list, I'm very excited about the start that we've got.
I just wanted to ask everybody else what they think about the appointment of Thomas Frank at Tottenham. Kendall, is he a good person to take over from Ange? And do you feel like maybe Ange wasn't treated fairly, I guess?
I think if you ask Tottenham fans and if you ask everyone else, I think there'll be two different sides of the story there in terms of fairness and things like that. But obviously he wasn't doing very well. He was really reluctant to change his tactics. He right at the beginning of the season, even when they started doing well, it was just kind of that very high line. It was a very strange situation in terms of tactically and stylistically, with him just really refusing to change anything for the majority of the time. I really like Thomas Frank as a manager. I think he's a really good manager. I think, as was said, he's very calm. I think it'll bring that to Spurs, especially after the Europa League win, because that was massive for them considering the season that they had. So I think it is a good appointment. I just obviously don't think that they should get too ahead of themselves at the moment. There's lots of work to be done on that squad. He's coming into, a job that is very high pressure. Daniel Levy's notoriously not the best at giving up the funds and buying the players that they need in every aspect and every window. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And obviously that the kind of race to Mbeumo as well will be very, very interesting now that Thomas Frank's gone to Tottenham. So we'll see where that ends up as well. But yeah, I do think in general and in the long term it'll be a good appointment.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see where Mbeumo ends up. Sticking with you, though, I feel like everyone keeps calling Newcastle dark horses, but you guys are serious contenders. You challenge teams, you play well. You're now a club that can keep their best players. Do you think you can seriously challenge for the title?
It depends on this window, but I still think we're a good way off that at the moment. I think we don't have the squad depth to compete for a title, especially now that we are in Champions League again. I just don't think that we have that at this current time. We haven't made a first team signing, obviously a bar Asula, who wasn't really going to come in as a first team signing until the Callum Wilson injury, for 3 windows now. So it is absolutely vital that we make some quality signings this summer, because we're going to get left behind again. Yes, we've got, in terms of on paper, our first 11, some fantastic quality in there. Look, we've got Alexander Isak, who's probably, arguably, I guess, to other people, but to me, the best striker in the world at the moment. We've got, Sandro Tonali, who's absolutely incredible and came back fighting after his ban. We've got Bruno, we've got Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall, 2 amazing young English fullbacks. And then we've got the likes of the experience like Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy, who had fantastic seasons last season and did really, really well. So on paper, yes, we have a really, really good squad in terms of the starting 11, but beyond that, we really don't. And we need to upgrade on the players like, obviously, no offence to Dan Burn, no offence to Jacob Murphy, but we do obviously need to improve on the squad as a whole and keep those players as well. So it's equally as vital that we hold on to the players as well as get new ones in. But yeah, I do think we're a little bit away from competing properly for a title. But I do think we're obviously kind of getting to the point of being a mainstay in the Champions League at the moment.
So what does a good season look like for Newcastle?
Obviously, we need to capitalise on last season. It's going to have to be, we won a trophy and got into the Champions League last season. So for me, I'm 30. That was the best season that I've ever seen in my lifetime. To some other clubs, people would be looking and thinking that's really nothing, but to us it's like everything. We hadn't won a domestic trophy for 70 years, so for me last season, probably everyone, I guess if you would ask the like 98% of the fan base, it was their best season in their lifetime as well. So we've got to capitalize on that. We've got to make sure that we stay in that top 4 mark. Yes, we were lucky this season because our form was amazing after Christmas. Obviously we won the trophy, that was brilliant, and then towards the back end of the season, coming at the Champions League spots, last day losing to Everton, only getting in, thank you, Beth, to Manchester United beating Villa. So that was kind of a bit annoying considering the season that we'd had. But we've got to make sure that we stay there this season, having really another good, cup run, if not win another one, because that was the League Cup was Manchester City's capitalisation. So we need to do that as well. So yeah, hopefully we can just do that again and get some quality signings and compete again.
Perfect. Blue Lions TV, I'm gonna come back to you. Obviously, Maresca back in Europe. Will he be able to balance, that Champions League football with Chelsea?
I think so. I think obviously playing Conference League football last season, maybe it's like a little precursor for the main event, which is CL football. And we already saw a little of interesting things with how we use the squads in terms of using more, I don't like saying the word, but more B team players in that competition. So there's been a lot of emphasis on rotating the team when it's needed. And Maresca's not afraid to do anything like that. So I think he'll be very equipped to take on Champions League football with the squad. I'm hoping that we can maybe invest a little bit, but if I'm seeing things for what they are right now, listen, we've added another striker in Liam Delap. We have some strength now in midfields with Andre Santos and Asugo coming in the team. Hopefully, we're going to have a fitter Romeo Lavia, but if we don't have that, we have 2 great young understudies that can take those minutes up. And I see it like this. If we had access to these types of players from last season, I think maybe it would have been a bit easier securing Champions League football. So there's like small positives in the right direction. We still have to strengthen, because for myself, it's simply this year. Now that we got Champions League football, this isn't a trophy for us. This is the new minimum for us right now. A lot of Chelsea fans that had this belief, myself included, we thought that with the new ownership coming in, we accepted there would be a process and patience was needed, but none of us thought that that would involve not having Champions League football for 2 years. This is our minimum in terms of, even no matter how bad the season is, we always get Champions League football. So I'm making this point because now we're in the CL. Listen, we got 2 stars in our jersey for a reason. We're in it to win it. No matter how young the team is, how inexperienced they are, that's just the legacy of Chelsea Football Club in Europe right now. So I hope that we respect our history and we respect what we've done in this tournament, and that we do our very best to make sure we can go as deep and far as possible. And to do that, we are going to have to maybe add a few more players to really just boost Maresca's ideas to the next level. For example, a goalkeeper that allows us to play out from the back a bit better. Maresca was experimenting with having this makeshift back four with like Robert Sanchez joining one of the centre backs. But because he's not great with the ball at his feet, that kind of really impedes us tactically. We need to sign a big boy on the left flank. We need to add more ball carriers to the team. And I think if we can maybe solve those 2 like big concerns in the team right now, alongside what we've brought back and what we've added, I think we have a pretty healthy team that I think will be very excited to take on European clubs in the Champions League for sure. A lot of struggle, effort, and sacrifice was made to get us in this position. I think the Club World Cup's a nice little, precursor to CL football, because we might be playing against PSGs or Real Madrids, etc., etc. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic, but I can get more excited depending on the key positions we sign in the market this summer.
Yeah, you just had to remind everyone there how many Champions Leagues Chelsea have won.
Got to
slip that in there.
Can I ask, you spend £1 billion and you're still asking for ball carriers?
Sadly, I know we've invested so much in these areas, but we haven't found those stars that we need right now. But listen, all of us don't want us to be a team that's just happy to be in the CL. We want a team now that's ready to win the league, win the CL challenge now. That's the next stage for the club's development. And I think we're on a nice track now to get there.
So I got a question for Beth. what are your expectations this season, and what does success look like?
I mean, success for Manchester United, kind of the same as what Blue Lines TV was just saying there, is Manchester United Champions League is always minimum. That is what it is, and we should always be competing up there for the Premier League, for the biggest trophies, but we've not done that now for over a decade, and Manchester United fans have started to get used to that. And last season we finished 8th, and everyone was saying how much of a disaster that season was. This season we finished 15th. Our manager has a points ratio of 0.92 points across the season, points per game. So it's difficult to manage them expectations. I'm a big believer that where Manchester United's gone wrong is the front line. We struggle to score goals. If you look at our goals for and goals against, our goals against, still isn't great, but it's competitive with the top teams. You look at our goals for, we cannot score goals. 44 goals in the Premier League across the season just is nowhere near good enough. So we've started to look at that. Cunha, I think, is going to be a massive signing. One of the best performers in the Premier League last season. It looks like we're close to getting Mbeumo over the line. I know there was a bit of interest from Newcastle and from Spurs, but it looks like he's going to go to Manchester United. Thankfully, somehow, we still have that slight pull there. I know a lot of people say it's the wages, but I'd like to say I think it's because of the Manchester United factor. And then the huge one is obviously a striker as well. You look at the fact that Manchester United tried to go for Delap, couldn't get him, unfortunately, went to Chelsea because of that Champions League football. And then you look at Gyökeres now competing with Arsenal for him. I do wonder where we're going to go in the striker market and where we'll end up, because Chelsea ended up getting Delap off us. It looks like Arsenal are probably going to get Gyökeres off us. When you do finish 15th, when you don't have European football, it's going to be harder to attract players, and you can't always rely on the way Manchester United. But I honestly do think a new front three in that team, a good midfielder to go in there with Bruno Fernandes, someone who's combative, someone who can get around the pitch, but he's also press resistant and can carry the ball forward. That's going to improve this team tenfold. There's obviously other positions we need. Onana isn't good enough as a keeper. The wing backs are such a huge part of Amorim's system, but the fundamentals is getting more goals into this team. And if we can do that, I think if Manchester United sign a new front three, we can start to compete for top 6. And that's my aim. Next season, compete for top 6. It's crazy to say as a Manchester United fan, because that would be a disaster season for us, not being in around that top 4, not competing. But from where we're at, going from 15th, trying to compete for top 6, I think is realistic within Amorim's first summer. And we've not got that European football where you're going to be looking and you're thinking, what players are we going to play on Wednesday, Thursday night? What players are we going to play at the weekend? You can save your fully fit team for them games. And I think that is where next season, you look at the likes of Newcastle, who I agree with Kendall, have a fantastic starting 11, but they might start to struggle in the Premier League because they've got to manage them 2 fixtures a week. And that's where Manchester United can capitalise in competing with them sort of teams that you only have that one game and you've got a fresh squad full of, hopefully, Premier League proven signings like the Cunha, like the Mbeumo, some of the top scorers in the Premier League. It's going to add goals to our team, which is the main thing.
Right. So before we wrap up, having looked at the fixture list, so obviously the first 5 and maybe towards the end as well, starting with you, Chris, what's your prediction for this season's top 4?
Top 4, I would say Manchester City are going to go all out to win this Premier League trophy again, and I feel like Manchester City will be there. Arsenal are obviously going to bottle it yet again. We're very used to seeing that. Liverpool, of course, will be there. It depends how much money Chelsea spend, I suppose. Newcastle will definitely be there. There are a lot of teams fighting for that top 4 place. A lot of teams have really, really improved. But for Spurs, I would say that, top 6 has to be our aim. League position is very, very important to the football club, particularly where we finished this season in 17th. But, the manager goes and wins you a European trophy, first one in 41 years, first trophy in 17 years, then gets the sack. So, league position is very important for Spurs. So Thomas Frank's got his work cut out. But I agree with Beth in many ways. In terms of transfer window, Spurs need to go out and sign experienced Premier League players, players that have been there, done it. and have got that experience, because we really do need to go that one step further now and put a trophy in the cabinet yet again, because we've tasted this success and we want it again. But yeah, the Premier League, I'm very excited. You know, it's only just finished, but when these fixtures come out, it's all very exciting for us all again, and we all can't wait for it to start all up again.
Kendall, your top 4 prediction?
Yeah, I literally couldn't have said anything different to Chris there. Like, I think because of the way the Premier League is now, and you've even got teams like Bournemouth, for example, who are really massively strengthening, obviously Brighton, and just teams like that who traditionally obviously aren't anywhere near kind of European football. So the fact is the Premier League is getting stronger. I know a lot of people will say that it's the quality is not there, or it's the weakest Premier League season ever, but it's not. In my opinion, I think it is only getting stronger. So yeah, I literally agree. I think Man City will be there, Liverpool, of course, despite the fact, yes, Arsenal, we want them to bottle because it's funny. We want them to always finish second because it's hilarious. But yeah, I think regardless, I still think they'll be there and thereabouts. Obviously, us, if we get a few decent signs in, Chelsea are pretty much there. So I really think it is top 4 next year. Well, obviously it will be next year, but next season is going to be so difficult to predict. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting to watch everyone try to get those spaces, because, you know, we kind of got bailed out a little bit, as I said earlier, this time with the 5th place getting into Champions League. So yeah, it'll be really, really interesting. But I just hope that we're there.
Beth, your top 4 prediction? And where you think United will finish?
I don't think United are getting top 4, unfortunately. I wish I could say that we were, but it's just too big of a jump. The only thing I would say is that things can change very quickly. Nottingham Forest went from, I think it was 17th, up into competing for them European spots. I think they ended up in Conference League, didn't they? But they were well into competing for the Champions League until the last couple of games of the season. So things can change. And like I said, Premier League proven players going into that United side, particularly goal scorers, gives us a good chance. But there's like the guys just said, Kendall and Chris there, there's way too much competition for Champions League football right now within the Premier League, and way too much competition for that top 4. So like I say, I think me and Chris are on the same wavelength of where we're at. Spurs and United quite similar. Even though Amorim's been there for half a season, I still see this as his fresh start. It is like having a new manager, because he came into such a mess last season. So both Spurs and United, with them new managers, probably looking to jump up to the top 6 areas. In terms of top 4, I think it's going to be super tough to call, but I just see with what Liverpool are doing in the transfer window, I see them winning it again. And it's horrible for me as a United fan to say that, because they can go ahead of us in Premier League titles. But Wirtz is a fantastic signing. Kerkez, Frimpong. I think they are going to be unbelievably strong next season. It's Liverpool and City title race is what I see. And then, honestly, as much as I know Arsenal fans are confident, if they don't sign a proper striker, I could see them dropping off. So it depends on what transfer business you do. It's hard to predict it early, but Arsenal, Newcastle are going to be in and around that, as well as Chelsea as well, I think.
And lastly, Blue Lions TV, your top 4 prediction?
I agree with Beth's last statement. I see like maybe 3 clubs who are going to get guaranteed Champions League football. That's going to be City, Liverpool, and us. I feel that confident. I feel like maybe Arsenal are the ones that could maybe drop off a little bit, because I think their season hopes are too reliant on the business they're securing in the summer window now. They kind of dropped off near the end of last season. You know, they've been under Arteta now for the last 4 years. This is like one of those dangerous areas to be in right now where, you know, you might have to revamp the tactics a little bit to try and stay a bit fresh so teams don't completely suss you out. And if Arsenal can't bring in any heavy hitters to really upgrade what they're doing, I do think they could be in that mix of maybe Newcastle's, maybe Villa's again, and maybe like another surprise package, like a Spurs, maybe, depending on how well Thomas Frank does. But for us, yeah, I feel pretty optimistic, to be fair with you. I think the start of the fixture list looks quite nice. It's been a tough season, a lot of traveling. We've got Club World Cup duties as well too. So the fact that we can start off the new Prem season staying in London for the next 6 weeks, that's going to do a lot of wonders in terms of, you know, traveling far and, you know, squad preparation, training preparation for these games before we have a big game then against United away. Our London derby record has been quite nice if you omit Arsenal out the mix. So there's a good chance that we could build some nice momentum at the start of this season. And I'm feeling pretty optimistic about what we do.